Eniola was a young man who lived in Igbaraoke, a small town known for its friendly people and busy markets. Life had never been easy for him, despite his hard work. It seemed like luck was never on his side. He had tried all sorts of menial jobs, digging wells, carrying heavy loads at the market, and even farming. But the more he tried, the worse his financial situation became. Eniola's wife, Ola, was a supportive woman who stood by him, and their two sons, Tade and Ayo, were his pride and joy. But poverty weighed heavily on them, and Eniola's heart ached each time he couldn't provide for his family. One hot afternoon, while Eniola was working as a laborer at a construction site, he spotted an old friend from his school days, Okiki. Okiki was a wealthy man who drove expensive cars and wore designer clothes, but his wristwatch sparkled in the sunlight, and his shoes were polished to a shine. Eniola couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Okiki step out of a sleek black car. The two friends exchanged warm greetings, and after that day, they started seeing each other regularly. Okiki would often buy Eniola food and give him money whenever they met. But Eniola couldn't help but feel envious of his friend's success. One evening, as they sat in a small local bar sharing drinks, Eniola finally gathered the courage to ask Okiki, "My friend, please tell me the truth. How did you become so rich? What business are you doing?" Okiki leaned back in his chair, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Eniola, are you sure you want to know? The kind of business I do is not easy. Not everyone can handle it." Eniola's eyes widened with hope. "Okiki, I am ready to do anything. I can't continue living like this. I want to be rich like you, my friend. Just show me the way." Okiki nodded thoughtfully. "All right, Eniola. If you are truly serious, then come with me tomorrow. I will take you to someone who can help you." The next day, Okiki took Eniola deep into the forest to meet a powerful juju man named Ayilara. The air was thick with mystery as they approached Ayilara's shrine, which was surrounded by strange carvings and the smell of burning incense. Ayilara was an old man with piercing eyes that seemed to look right into Eniola's soul. He listened carefully as Okiki explained Eniola's situation. After a long silence, Ayilara finally spoke. "If you want to be rich, you must use the townspeople's ear. Every ear has a spirit, and that spirit can be harnessed for wealth." Eniola's heart raced. He didn't fully understand what Ayilara was saying, but he was desperate. "I will do it. Whatever it takes, I am ready." Ayilara handed Eniola a small charm and explained how to use it. "With this charm, no one will see you when you collect ear from Baba's shop. But you must perform a ritual in a special room in your house every 10 days. No one should ever enter that room except you. If anyone dares to see your secrets, you will become a lunatic and all your wealth will disappear." Eniola nodded, his mind focused only on the wealth he would soon have. He agreed to Ayilara's terms without a second thought, eager to escape the grip of poverty. That night, Eniola returned home with Ayilara's words echoing in his mind. He paced back and forth in his small living room, glancing nervously at Ola and his son as they slept soundly. He knew he would have to make his first move soon. The next day, Eniola waited until dusk before setting out to the nearest barber shop. With Ayilara's charm in his pocket, he felt a strange sensation in his chest, a mix of fear and excitement. As he reached the shop, he lingered in the shadows, watching carefully as the last customer left. The barber closed the shop door, leaving behind a pile of cut hair on the floor. Eniola's heart pounded, clutching the charm. He whispered, "Make me unseen, make me unknown." He felt a cold rush flow through his veins. With trembling steps, he moved silently towards the door. The charm seemed to hum in his hand, making him feel almost invisible. He bent down, scooping up as much hair as he could fit in his bag. His hands were shaking, but he dared not stop. When he finally got home, he rushed to the secret room, shutting the door behind him. His hands were still shaking as he set the bag down and lighted a small candle. The dim light cast airy shadows on the walls, but he tried to focus. He carefully emptied the bag onto the floor, staring at the hair he had gathered. His breath was shallow, his heart racing. He remembered the words Ayilara had taught him and whispered them softly, as if afraid someone might hear. Òjò ayé, òjò owó, gba ẹ̀mí mi, gba ẹ̀mí mi. He took the bottle of dark liquid Ayilara had given him, his hands trembling, and poured it over the hair. The liquid was thick and oily, spreading slowly as he chanted. The room seemed to grow colder, the candlelight flickering wildly as if it were alive. He felt a chill run down his spine, but he continued the ritual, determined to see it through. He sprinkled water around the hair, his voice louder now. Filled with desperation, "Bring me wealth, bring me riches. Let no one see what I do here." The hair felt heavy, thick with something unseen. Eniola tied the red cloth over the hair and secured it with a black thread, as Ayilara had shown him. When he finished, he collapsed to his knees, panting, his body trembling with a mix of fear and relief. He had done it. The first step was complete. He blew out the candle, plunging the room into darkness, and whispered to himself, "I hope this works. I have no other choice." And just as promised, Eniola's life changed dramatically. He moved his family into a grand mansion, filled the garage with latest cars, and wore clothes that even the richest people in Igbaraoke envied. The town people were astonished by Eniola's sudden wealth. Some praised him, saying he was a hard worker who had finally gotten lucky, while others whispered that something wasn't right. How could a man who was so poor yesterday suddenly become so rich overnight? They didn't have any evidence, so they kept their suspicions to themselves. Ola, Eniola's wife, was both happy and confused. She enjoyed their new lifestyle, but couldn't shake off the feelings that something was off. She asked Eniola one day, "How did you get all this money? What kind of contract did you win through Okiki?" Eniola laughed and brushed off her concerns. "Don't worry, Ola. It was just a big contract. Everything is fine." But Ola's curiosity grew, especially about the secret room in their mansion. Eniola had warned her never to enter it, but she couldn't stop wondering what was inside. The more she thought about it, the more suspicious she became. She noticed how Eniola would disappear into the room every 10 days, locking the door behind him and staying there for hours. One day, when Eniola was away on a business trip, Ola felt an uncontrollable urge to see what was in the secret room. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she turned the key. The door creaked open, and what she saw inside made her scream. The walls were covered with strange symbols, and in the center of the room was a large pot filled with what looked like human hair. Candles flickered around the pot, and the air was thick with an eerie silence. At that very moment, miles away, Eniola, who was driving back home, felt a sharp pain in his head. His vision blurred and swerved off the road. He jumped out of his car, screaming and clutching his head, running wildly through the town like a madman. His clothes were torn, and his eyes were wide with fear. People gathered, pointing and whispering as they watched the once rich man lose his mind right before their eyes. Ola received a frantic call from a neighbor telling her what had happened. She rushed out of the house, her heart pounding with fear. When she found Eniola, he was rolling on the ground, shouting and laughing hysterically. No one could calm him down, and Ola felt tears sting her eyes as she watched her husband downfall. Ola tried everything to cure Eniola's madness. She took him to traditional healers, herbalists, and even doctors, but nothing worked. Finally, someone recommended a powerful pastor known for his miracles. Desperate and with no other option, Ola took Eniola to see the pastor. After praying for Eniola, the pastor looked at Ola with a serious expression. Your husband's problem is not ordinary. He had been using people's hair for rituals to gain his wealth. The only way he can be healed is if you confess to the town people and tell them how Eniola got his riches. Ola was stunned. She didn't want to believe it, but deep down she knew it was true. The secret room, the strange rituals, and the sudden wealth, it all makes sense now. She was terrified of what the town people would do if they found out the truth. But she also knew she had no choice if she wanted to save her husband. With a heavy heart, Ola made her way back to Igbaraoke, unsure of how she would reveal the terrible secret. Would the town people forgive Eniola, or would they turn against him? As she walked through the familiar streets, Ola felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her shoulders. She knew that this was just the beginning of Eniola's problem, and the journey to redemption would not be an easy one. But as Ola looked up at the sky, she prayed for the strength to do what was right, no matter the cost. Ola felt a mix of fear and determination as she made her way back home. She knew what she had to do, but the thought of facing the entire town with Eniola's dark secrets made her stomach churn. As she approached her house, she saw people gathered outside, whispering and pointing. The news of Eniola's madness had spread like wildfire, and the town folks were eager to hear what had happened. Taking a deep breath, Ola stepped forward. Please, everyone, listen to me, she called out, her voice trembling. The crowd quieted and all eyes turned to her. Ola's hands shook as she began to speak. My husband, Eniola, didn't get rich through a big contract. He used a juju man to get people's ear from the barber's shop in town. He used it to do rituals and gain wealth. Gasps of shock filled the air, and the people looked at each other in disbelief. Is it true? Someone shouted. So that's how he became rich overnight, another voice exclaimed. Ola felt tears streaming down her cheek as she confessed everything she knew, from the meeting with Ailara to the secret room in their mansion. The town folk erupted in anger. Some shouted insults at Eniola, while others cursed him for bringing such evil into their town. A few people even threatened to burn down Eniola's mansion, and Ola could see the rage in their eyes. She tried to calm them down, but the crowd's anger was too intense. Just then, an elderly man named Babajide, who was respected by everyone in Igbaraoke, stepped forward. "Enough!" he shouted, raising his hands to quiet the crowd. "We cannot let our anger control us. We must find a way to resolve this matter peacefully." Babajide turned to Ola. "You did the right thing by confessing, but now we need to find a way to reverse this evil. Does anyone know how we can get rid of this curse?" One of the older women in the crowd, Mama Kende, spoke up. "I've heard of a powerful priest in the neighboring town of Ilaro. They say he has the power to break curses and cleanse evil spirits. Perhaps he can help us." Babajide nodded thoughtfully. "Then it's decided. We will take Eniola to the priest in Ilaro. And you, Okiki," he said, pointing at Eniola's friends, who stood silently in the crowd. "You will go as well. You brought Eniola into this mess, and you must help him find a way out." Okiki reluctantly agreed, and the next morning, a small group from Igbaraoke set out for Ilaro with Eniola in tow. Eniola was still behaving erratically, muttering to himself and occasionally breaking into fits of laughter. Ola's heart broke every time she looked at him, wondering if her husband would ever be the same again. When they arrived in Ilaro, the priest, a calm and wise man named Baba Agba, listened patiently as Ola explained everything. Baba Agba nodded slowly, his expression grave. "This is indeed a serious matter," he said. "Eniola has angered the spirit by using people's ear for selfish gain. But there is still hope. To break this curse, he must perform a cleansing ritual, and all the hair he took must be returned to its rightful owners." Ola's eyes widened in shock. "But how will we find all the people whose hair was taken? It will not be easy. The spirits are angry, and they demand justice. Eniola must also make a public apology to the town and promise never to engage in such evil practices again." The journey back to Igbaraoke was filled with tension. Ola and Okiki worried about how they would find all the people whose hair had been used in the rituals. When they arrived, Baba Agba began the cleansing ritual, burning herbs and chanting prayers. Eniola, who had been calm during the ritual, suddenly began screaming, and as if in pain, his body shook, and tears streaming down his face as he begged for forgiveness. Baba Agba's chants grew louder, and Eniola fell to his knees, clutching his head. Finally, after what seems like hours, Baba Agba stopped and turned to the crowd. "The ritual is done, but the spirits are not yet appeased. Eniola must continue to make amends by returning the hair and helping those he has wronged." For weeks, Eniola and Okiki went from house to house, confessing to the townspeople and asking for forgiveness. It was a humiliating experience, but Eniola knew he had no choice. Many people were angry, but others, seeing Eniola's genuine remorse, forgave him. Slowly, Eniola's condition began to improve, and the madness that had taken over him lessened. He started recognizing his family again, and there were moments where it seemed like his old self. But the path to redemption was far from over. Although Eniola had made progress, the town was still wary of him, and his wealth had all but vanished. The mansion that once symbolized his success now felt like a cold reminder of his mistakes. Eniola and Ola moved back into their small house, and Eniola returned to doing honest work. Though this time he was content with the little he had. Eniola's journey taught him a valuable lesson. True wealth is not in material things, but in the peace of mind and the love of family. He vowed never to take shortcuts again, no matter how tempting. Though the road ahead was uncertain, Eniola faced it with newfound humility and gratitude. As the days passed, the people of Igbaraoke slowly began to accept Eniola back into their community. Though trust was something he had to earn once more, Eniola worked hard, helping others and using his experience as a lesson for young men tempted by easy wealth. But in the quiet moments, when the night was still and Eniola was alone with his thoughts, he couldn't help but wonder if the spirits had truly forgiven him. Would they ever fully release him from their grip? And could he ever fully make amends for the lives he had disturbed with his greed? Ola stayed by his side, supporting him through every challenge. She had seen the worst of her husband and still chose to stand with him. Together, they faced the judgment of the town and the weight of their past mistakes, but they knew that as long as they had each other, they could weather any storm. Moral lesson: desperation can lead to dangerous choices, but no secret stays hidden forever. Eniola's greed for quick wealth led him to a path of destruction, teaching us that true success only comes from hard work and honesty. In the end, you always face the consequences of your actions. What would you do if you were in Eniola's shoe? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories that make you think twice. Thank you for watching.